Yo, I'm Bob. Into Marvel. Happen to be totally blind since birth. Talking about X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 6, Lifedeath, Part 2. I keep wanting to call it Season 6, Episode 6 because it feels like we're in the sixth season of the show. So, Lifedeath, Part 2. Premiered on April 17th in 2024. Sorry about the lateness of this review. I've been filming a lot of The Last of Us and Mortal Kombat videos. I did not mean for these episode reviews to lag behind. Hopefully this will be published on the eve of Bright Eyes, which is the next episode that will be airing. Maybe I can get this up today. This is Monday, April 22nd as I'm filming this. So there are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, I'd advise you to watch it or you're going to get spoiled. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. So I expected to be with Storm and Forge for the majority of this episode, okay? I had no idea we were going to spend time with the Shi'ar, with Lalandra, with Professor Xavier. I have been waiting over 2 decades to see this guy back in action, because this is the Charles Xavier that I was first introduced to as a kid. Yes, I love Patrick Stewart just as much as Professor Xavier. I think he did a fantastic job in the movies, but this, seeing him return, seeing him up and about, literally up and walking again thanks to that armored exoskeleton, I teared up just a little bit because, after the original series ended, I thought, well, that was it. I don't know what's going to happen next. But here we see the Shi'ar and the Kree, and, they're fighting as the episode begins. And right away, we get to see Deathbird. The last time we saw Deathbird was when she was attempting to overthrow Lalandra in Beyond Good and Evil Part 2. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck are you not in jail after what you did to your sister? Did something happen in the access of time? Did everybody forget what you did? It's very strange seeing her, not having to suffer any consequences from her coup, because, she teamed up with Apocalypse in Beyond Good and Evil Part 2. And she was promised Lalandra's throne. But, Apocalypse was like, I lied, and left her to her own devices. And here she is, back with the Imperial Guard. This is the next time we see her, and she's, taking on Ronan the Accuser and so many other Kree. And I was like, who did you bribe in order to stay out of prison? I mean, Lalandra is, pretty nice, so I guess she might have been lenient. I don't know, though. It's, maybe something happened in the comics. I think there might be a prequel comic to this show. I wonder if I'm missing something. But yeah, she might have managed to bribe some High Council members in order to stay out of prison. I mean, she is royalty. She might have gotten off with a slap on the wrist, who knows? But she's still causing trouble. No consequences to her actions whatsoever. So right away, she's interrupted because, and this was an interesting turn of events, we have Lalandra and Professor Xavier announcing their marriage. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. I hope things work out. But I mean, of course, I want to see him go back to Earth and be with the X-Men again. So we are also back with Storm and Forge in the episode because she's attempting to cure him from the adversary's bite. And you have this demonic entity mocking Storm throughout the episode, saying that it can save her. All she has to do is ask. And seeing this entity show up in the episode really makes me wish that we could see Mephisto in animation. I doubt we'll get that, but I feel like this kind of opens the door to other supernatural entities. We really haven't seen the X-Men deal with things like that in this continuity. But yeah, I loved how Allison Seeley Smith was doing double duty in the episode. You know, she's voicing Storm, but at the same time, she is voicing the adversary because, it kind of represents Storm's doubts and fears as the episode's continuing. And that really stood out to me while I was watching the episode. I think I've seen it 5 times by now. I meant to review this thing a few days ago, but folks were out mowing the lawn and you had leaf blowers going on and it was just so loud. So here I am trying to get this done. So when it comes to the voice of Professor Charles Xavier, I think Ross Marquand did a phenomenal job voicing this version of Charles. I loved Cedric Smith when I was a kid, and I think when you're trying to do the original series justice, you want to get as close as you can to, the tone of Xavier. He's a mediator. He's a peacemaker. He is a very deep thinker. And wow, I think Ross nailed Xavier's voice. He really did a fantastic job. And I had no idea that I was listening to the same guy who was in so many episodes of The Walking Dead. Yes, I've seen every episode of that show. At least I'm pretty sure it's the same Ross. I loved the scenes with Ross and Lalandra. I think, seeing Charles torn rather between being with Lalandra and going back to Earth and be with the X-Men is an interesting quandary, because you have Deathbird, schemer that she is, she still wants Lalandra's throne, so she's attempting to cause division between Lalandra and the rest of the Shi'ar. She's still got her eye on that throne, and she wants them both dealt with as the story goes. And I like, how for just a little bit, Charles is toying with the idea of giving up his memories. Because the Shi'ar, in order to become a part of them, you have to submit to them. You have to give up who you are in order to join this empire. When the Shi'ar conquers other worlds, they make you less than they are. And so Charles would have to give up his memories of Earth, of the X-Men, if he wanted to be with Lalandra, and he is understandably hesitant to do that. And while all this is going on, you've got Storm, who's with Forge, and she's got to go find this cactus. So she's out and about. I like how Forge is using his mysticism there to banish the adversary into the desert. And then, you've got Storm without her powers. She's heading off with Forge. She doesn't want to leave him alone. He doesn't want to be alone in case this is his last day on Earth. So I like that, they're riding together to find that cactus in order to heal Forge of the demon's bite. So you have bigotry in the Shi'ar Empire because, of course, Deathbird is not too fond of Charles. Not only is he a Terran, as she says, but he's also a mutant, and they view mutants as a lower life form even than that of normal Terrans. So we get to that point in the episode where you've got Deathbird and her soldiers attempting to take the throne from Lalandra yet again, or maybe you pronounce it Lalandra. I'm still used to no tall vowel there in terms of her name. But yeah, you've got that fight scene there at the end, and I like how Charles just stops everything and has them all head to the astral plane, and it's a classroom, and you have him talking about how, why do we have to be less? Why does one culture have to be less than the other in order for us to coexist? And you've got that speech that he's attempting to make. And then, he sees the death of Gambit, Speaking of Gambit, I like how he and Magneto, they're not in the introduction to the show in this episode. As far as we know, they're gone until further notice. So no Gambit in the introduction, no Magneto in the introduction, and Xavier sees Gambit's death in that psychic vision there. And of course, everything is interrupted. He decides right away at the end of the episode, I need to return to Earth. I need to return to the X-Men. And, you know, it was such a powerful scene there because he is putting aside his feelings for Lilandra. He still wants to see his dream realized, and he's wanting to go back to Earth. But also you've got Storm here. She's accosted by the adversary yet again as the episode's coming to a close. She can't seem to nab that cactus, and it is taunting her. And she realizes, hey, you know, I've been giving into doubt. I've been giving into fear. I've been ashamed of who I am for a long time. So this, I guess, kind of unlocks her powers that have been neutralized by the executioner's rifle there. I don't pretend to know how that works, but I think it has a lot to do with Storm embracing who she is now in the comics. It takes her quite a long time to reacquire her powers, for her powers to come back. In the comics, I think she relies on a machine to get them back, but here she's doing more of the work. She's doing all of the work herself when it comes to getting her powers back. And, you know, she gets them back and just vaporizes the adversary like it's nothing. And she heads back to Forge. I like how she's healing him up there at the end of the episode. And then she turns on the TV and she also sees that attack on Genosha, the aftermath. So you have Storm and Xavier. They know what they need to do, where they need to be, as rumors of this upcoming war are flying as the episode ends. And my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes at the end of the episode, is where we see, surprise, surprise, who's responsible for the attack on Genosha. I was wondering if it was Sinister, but at the same time, I thought they were going to throw a curveball at us, make it someone we didn't expect. Of course, I thought Gyrick was involved. I mean, but of course it's Sinister. You've got Gyrick running away down that alleyway there, and Sinister blasts him in the back. And Gyrick is just whimpering. He actually feels ashamed for what happened in Genosha. Of course, I think it's just out of fear. And Sinister's like, hey, you know, it's okay, just as long as you place your faith in Sinister, you need not fear the future. And then he just ends the episode by laughing maniacally. And I love Christopher Britton so much, playing the role of Mr. Sinister. Even though we just saw him for a few seconds, it feels like the character from the original animated series. He's in the shadows. He's pulling the strings. He is using other people to do his dirty work. So I wonder if they're going to go into the Sins of Sinister arc from the comics at some point. I tend to wonder if Nathaniel here might be a clone himself, if he's going to have to deal with some unforeseen events at some point in the show. I don't know if we'll be seeing any of that. But I'm pretty sure I heard Christopher Britton voicing the announcer as Lilandra and Charles were being announced at some point in the episode. I was pretty sure that was Britton. And that led me to wonder, okay, so how many different Sinisters might there be out there in the galaxy? So yeah, there's one clone. I mean, all of these Sinister clones don't know that they're clones in the comics. One of them is named Orbis Stellaris or Orbis Stellaris. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And I think that one has an interest in galactic politics. So hopefully we'll see some of, bits and pieces of these arcs kind of come into the show at some point, if it lasts longer than 20 episodes, which I very much hope that it does. But yeah, seeing Sinister at the end of this episode was cool. Hearing the voice of Christopher Britton announcing Lilandra and Xavier earlier on in the episode, it really made me wonder, could that be another Sinister I mean, I'm sure it was just Britton doing another voice in the episode, but I was like, yeah, come on. I want to see more than just one Sinister, because I love the idea that there are multiple versions of this guy running around, none aware of the other at first. That is just crazy, and I do hope we get to see something like that in X-Men '97, because that would really throw poor Sinister for a loop. Not that I'd feel sorry for him, but yeah, kind of interesting to have the wool pulled over his eyes for a while, kind of have him surprised and not knowing what to do with like three different Sinisters. I'm sure that there are more. As I said, I'm not too familiar with the comic stuff, because they're just little factoids around the internet. You can't really read the comics if you can't see. You just have to kind of have straight up facts introduced to you, through articles and what have you. But I love the episode. I'm sure I'm missing some things that I wanted to talk about. I'm not really sure why Deathbird is still out and about, but I like that, though. I like that she's not in prison for what she did, teaming up with Apocalypse earlier on. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it had something to do with the access of time screwing with everybody's memories. I don't know. I tend to think she probably bribed high council members in order to keep herself out of prison, because she does have sway, a lot of political sway. I think one way or the other, she's still doing what she does, got her eye on that throne, and for a second time now, I think she was denied that throne. So yeah, I guess that'll do for this episode review. I really enjoyed what we got here, but I cannot wait for Bright Eyes. As I film this video, that episode's yet to premiere. We know Rogue called Cable Bright Eyes in the original show, so I'm thinking that's probably going to have a lot to do with Nathan, and hopefully we'll be seeing what he's up to. I cannot wait for that one. So we'll be talking about that next time. And until then, I will hear you guys later.